Welcome to the Coach Speak podcast, built for coaches, by coaches, hosted by Jamie Bolton and Dustin Martin, sponsored by Ray Crowther, providing athletic training equipment since 1932, helping you dominate with fundamentals.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coach Speak. Dustin Martin here with Jamie Bolton. We have another special guest tonight, Dr. Dean Boyd. A lot of insights we're going to get from him. Before we get going, we want to thank our sponsor for presenting this episode, Team Builder, the #1 software for strength and conditioning coaches.
Yeah, guys, today is awesome. I got to coach with Coach Boyd for a year when he came into York, but Coach Boyd has been at 4 different schools, over 40 years of coaching experience. He just got elected into the South Carolina Hall of Fame for football coaches. We're excited to have him. He's got hundreds of wins and multiple state championships. Today, we're going to be getting into feeder programs, how he utilizes feeder programs, team building in the off season, and then how he kind of engages the community throughout all of that. So we're really excited. Thank you for being on, Coach Boyd.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys inviting me, and excited to get on here and talk ball every time I can do that. And especially with 2 young guys like you that are kind of leading the younger group nowadays, it makes you feel a lot better as an old guy to see young guys really enjoying what they're doing and giving time to football, and that next generation has to take over. So I'm glad to see that you guys are doing this, and I know how important it is to both of you. I've talked to both of you on numerous occasions, so I'm real excited about being on tonight.
Yeah, we're definitely all about learning, and we got one of the best. And I do want to start off with a little bit of a story that before me and you ever met, you were interviewing for the York job, and I was in the waiting room, and I didn't know that you were interviewing at that time. And me and another assistant coach were sitting there waiting, and you came out and you had that sharp suit on, and I was like, "Oh man, I think that's Dean Boyd, man. he's got like 200 plus wins. He's from York." And you came out. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember what you said? You said, "Boys, it sure is intimidating in there." and so we were both dying laughing, or I was kind of laughing and chuckling. I think the guy beside me he started sweating even harder. So that I knew then you were the guy, and you were playing the game the right way for sure.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
don't remember all that, but I don't doubt it. That sounds exactly like me. So
competitor, man, competitor. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. So I think one thing that the reason we had you on is to talk about how you do your feeder programs. Your feeder programs are obviously huge. When we were together, you were super involved in that. Why do you believe that it's important to have those feeder programs, and how does that kind of factor into your long-term success?
one of the things that you and I talked about a lot was that vertical progression, and I've always been a believer in that. I think that if the more our kids can get around what we do and know our terminology and see our terminology in action and see our plays in action, the easier it is for them at each level that they ascend to. So we like to try to get that vertical progression going. We want to make sure that we have the ascension that we want to have, and that those kids are able to garner everything that we need them to have before they get there. And I'll explain some of that tonight as we go through some of these things. I looked over a few of the questions and things that you guys were going to shoot at us, and I got a couple of things that we're doing a little bit different than when you were here, but I think it's going to help our program overall. But the main reason is to get our kids involved. We like to use our older kids to help us in that aspect of it too. It gives them some leadership skills. It gives them an opportunity to see how those young kids look up to them and what they mean to our program. And that's just probably a bigger part of it as the actual teaching of the X's and O's and the formations and the bases that we're going to get in and everything else.
So what are you guys doing now? Like, what is your feeder program like? Explain to me like how that works at York in your particular scenario.
When I got here and you were a part of this too, I saw that there was an issue that we needed to kind of work on. Not by anybody's fault, but it just, I looked and this is going to sound, and I don't want it to sound crazy, but our band was able to get our kids into 6th grade and have 6th, 7th, 8th grade band. Well, I wanted to know why we couldn't do that with football. That would help us tremendously. So our superintendent was very gracious and our school board and all, and they allowed us to have 6th grade football classes, 7th grade football classes, and 8th grade football classes. And then, of course, at the high school, we had everything we had there. So we were able to take those things, and Casey McSwain does our 6th grade. He has 2 classes right now, and of just 6th graders, and that's about 60 kids, 30 in each class. And then in the 7th grade, we have 2 classes, and they're about 30 apiece in those classes. So that's about 60. Then we have the same thing with the 8th graders. And then, of course, when they get to the high school, we take 7 semesters of weightlifting or football class. All that helps those young men learn more and more and more. It gets to be real repetitious with them, and sometimes maybe monotonous with them, but we try to keep it pretty, alive and moving and fluid and that sort of thing. But, we want some routine. We want to make sure that they get what we're trying to get to them. And has seemed to help, especially cultural wise. Culturally, it's really helped. And I think now that we've got this 6th grade group, our 9th graders now are currently the first 6th grade group we had. So we're starting to see the positives, so to speak, of what we are trying to gain.
Yeah, and I remember when I think it was 2017 or 2018, I actually did my PE teaching internship through Winthrop at York Middle. And one thing I will say about York, the middle school is set up for exactly what you are implementing, because I think that used to be the old school. So the weight room is probably double the size of most high school weight rooms that I've seen. And I think that the facilities allow that a lot. And I know that there were a lot of interest from the middle school kids back then. And so I guess, hearing you talk about it a little bit more, when you first got to York, what's kind of your process for evaluating where you need to attack the feeder program? So how did you dive in immediately and kind of get there?
I really just visited a lot, and you're absolutely right about the facilities. I mean, you go down there, and our intermediate school is right beside our middle school. So, and they share actually fields down there, practice fields. So it really made a lot of sense to see if we could get in the 6th grade. Well, my next goal is to get in the 5th grade. Now, in the 6th grade, we're doing PVC stuff and push-ups and sit-ups and body weight exercises and spatial awareness and things of that nature. But as you guys know, you deal with it all the time as coaches. Spatial awareness is a lost art. Kids don't have a clue of how to get open or what open means, and or how to close an open space. They don't know what all that means. So to have that opportunity to teach that at such a young age, and then move it up to the 7th grade and the 8th grade. And when I got here, I just kind of evaluated all that kind of stuff. I looked at our recreation program. I looked at our middle school program, and we needed some stability there. We had some change and turnover there a good bit. So we needed some stability there. I tried to work on that. But as you know, it's hard nowadays because a lot of people aren't going into the teaching profession because there's not a lot of money to be made in it. We make a little bit better in North Carolina, maybe, but it's still not a lot to be made. So you have to use a lot of volunteers. You have to use a lot of different people and whatnot. But I sat there and I looked at it. I talked to other people about it. And of course, I've been at it for a long time. When I was at Marlboro County, I was the athletic director at the high school and 5 middle schools and the head football coach.
Wow.
So you learn to try to use that time the best you can, because it's hard. I mean, you're not going to be good at all of it. When during football season at Marlboro, my athletic director duties suffered a little bit, and then I would catch up in the spring. But that's the same kind of idea and modality I went into when I started looking at what we needed to do at our level at the high school and to try to make our program better. So we've actually got a cultural program that we start in the 6th grade in that football class. It goes 6th, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade. Then we start backing off of that a little bit and implement some other things. But I think we're headed in the right direction. We're starting to see some of the fruit of our labor, so to speak. We have suffered some over the years, but you also got to remember when I came in a year later, COVID hit. So I didn't even have a full off season for 3 years at York. And so we're not where we want to be, but we're getting closer. We're getting where we need to be and trying to get this thing right. I will be turning 60 this year, and I'd love to go at least 4 or 5 more years, but you also have to win. We were 2-8 this year, and part of that problem is we lost 6 games by 18 points, and we've got to correct those things. And hopefully the stuff that we're doing is leading to that. But I also, when I do leave out of here or do have to retire or whatever it may be, I'm a York boy. So I want this program, I want only whoever comes in, I want them to say, hey, this is a turnkey thing. I need to tweak here and there and maybe I'll put my own little spin on it, but we're off and running. That would make me feel like I've done my job here. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's kind of a long story there, but that's kind of what we're trying to get done.
Well, I don't think anybody's working harder than you are at doing those things. I mean, there's no question in my mind that you're probably a 1% type of coach that's going to put that type of effort. The question that comes to my mind is how do you use your personnel and staff? I know you talked about a couple coaches, but are they meeting with those guys in the off season, like you said, with classes, or how do you use your staff, or what's the ideal situation for you right now with how you use your staff to kind of manage all that?
Well, like for example, tomorrow morning I'll have 3 weight classes tomorrow, and Coach Jason Lehman is my defense coordinator, but he's also my strength coach now. So he will be in there in first block with me, and that's all 9th graders. All right, in second block I'll be in there with Coach Green, and he's our linebackers coach. And in third block it'll be all 3 of us in there. And in fourth block, that's actually for our other sports and other things that goes on. But we use those. That's just one example. OTAs, we all are a part of that. I just tell them whatever's the best time for them with their players. Now, we don't get all our players because we have a lot of players that are playing other sports right now, and we encourage them to do that. And so we don't try to mess with those guys during their season. While they're doing that, don't worry about doing football. You'll come back to us in May or whenever your season's over, and we'll pick up there. Now, they're still in a lifting class, though. And we do in-season lifting, but we do that with football. We lift during football, and we have a game day lift on Fridays, and we lift pretty good during football. But try to keep all of them involved like that. We're doing this 12 and under Pop Warner right now, tackle league. And we practice on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And on Tuesdays, it's an offensive practice. So all my offensive varsity staff is coaching 12 and under. All right. Then on Thursdays, all my defensive staff is coaching all 12 and unders. That's asking a lot of our staff, but they've all bought into the fact that we have got to get our kids at an early age and get them knowing our system, getting them to know us as people and building those relationships if we want to be successful. Because this day and time now, with the new one-time free transfer rule in South Carolina, when you're a struggling program or have had we won 8 games 2 years ago, but we lost 8 this year. You got 1 or 2 players at a place like York. If you lose them to another school, that hurts your program. So we want to keep all our York kids in York the best we can. And the way to do that is build relationships and build a trust between the player and the coach.
Yeah, Coach, I agree. I don't think you can ever start too early, but you definitely can start too late, So I think the earlier you can reach them and the earlier you can get them there, that's a huge deal. So I guess what I want to know about that is, I think everything, we can all agree, all 3 of us, everything that you're doing is from a good place at heart. You want the program to grow, the county of York. How do you kind of balance that, but also making it the relationship where the younger coaches or the younger level coaches don't think you're trying to overstep or micromanage? How do you kind of balance the difference between, hey guys, this is coming from a good place versus them think you're overstepping on their job?
And that's a good question. I try to give them leadership spots. Like for our Pop Warner, I'm coaching it, but I'm not leading it. Our 7th grade coach, who's going to benefit the most from it, is leading it. And whatever he tells me to do, I do. I show him right away. He says, Coach, I need you to cover receivers tonight. I'm a receivers coach tonight. Coach, I need you to take the bags to the shed. I'm taking the bags to the shed. So I try to give all of them different leadership places. I've got my defensive coordinator is my strength coach, and then I've got other coaches that do other things. I've got one coach is my equipment manager. I've got another coach that leads the OTAs. I got another coach that does kind of leads the FCA. I got another coach that kind of leads the 7-on-7. So I've got one coach that's kind of over my social media. So I kind of let them tell me what their strength is and what they would like to do. And I let them have that baby and I let them do it. I try not to interfere as much as I can because I think if you're going to ask a lot of young coaches, you got to let them do, and they need to learn what works, and they need to learn how to fail some too, because that's the only way you learn,
Yep.
but I want them failing in a way when they do fail that they're not scared to try again. And I want them thinking outside the box. My whole goal as a head football coach is, I've got like 32 guys that's gone on to be head coaches. I take a lot of pride in that. I love that. Not all of them were with me right before they got a head coaching job. So, some of it I'm kind of fudging on what probably was mine and not mine. I count Jamie, for example. He was only with me a
Oh,
year.
yeah. You can claim me, Coach.
All
I
right.
learned a lot from you, man.
You can definitely claim him. When you took that job over, he called me. He said, "Man," he said, "just the thought behind this culture process,
Oh, it changed my life.
it
Yeah.
was." He used to tell me about it all the time.
Well, it's like Coach said, Coach Boyd was talking about. He said, you allow coaches to take over things. And I remember coming to you and saying, "Hey, I'd like to do like a quarterback academy," and me and you probably didn't even know each other that well, and so that gave me an opportunity to kind of show you that, like, I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to take this thing, and it was also you trusting me, so that trust level between us grew immensely. So we're doing quarterback academy. I'm going picking up the middle school quarterback and bringing him back, and we had like a whole room of quarterbacks, and then we did the culture thing together too, because I think me and you were in the weight room together. We were doing 75 loads of laundry like every block. Like, we got a lot of bonding time, but to see you, one, put the work in to do the laundry, you taking the bags to the shed, you giving ownership to other coaches, that taught me a lot just in that 8 months that we were together, that I was able to take a lot of that stuff, if not everything that I learned from you, and take it right into my head coaching job, let alone you singing some praises about me as well. So that that goes a long way with a guy with your pedigree. So it definitely is the case.
Well, I just really enjoy it. I like to see young coaches succeed. I like to see the whole process. There's nothing better to me to watch. You take a group of young men and you work them, and it's not all about wins and losses. As a young coach, that's what I used to think it was. But I've learned through time that so many times we learn so much more in a failure and times that we don't like to face as coaches, but the adversity, but you learn so much through that. And I want our guys, our coaches and our players to go through those times so they know how to do it later. And I want to show our coaches and players that I'm willing to do everything. I'm not going to ask somebody to do something that if I ask them to do it, I've done it at some point. I pick up trash, all the time around through there. We had a big track meet this past Saturday there, and I get there today and I'm looking around. I'm like, I can't stand this. So I'm picking up this trash as we're going through, and I'm talking to those kids about that. This is your house. This is your place. You want it to look as good as you can. You've got to take ownership in it. I know you didn't throw it down there. I know you didn't put it there, but that doesn't mean that you can't help pick it up and make it better. And I try to lead by example with that. I mess up sometimes too, but we try to do the things that we can do. And you guys are great examples of that, and how hard you work and putting this thing on. I know this takes a lot of time to do this, and you're doing it for the love of the sport and the love of high school athletics. And that does an old coach like me, it does his heart well.
Now, it makes a lot of sense, and really, thinking about maintaining that culture among all your age groups. One, you talked about you as an example. I'm sure your coaches exhibit that too. Are there certain things that you're seeing now with this young group? You said you had them for, this is your first group, sixth grade on up. Are they exemplifying that stuff better than the previous groups did?
They are, and they still have to learn the nuances of it, but as they come up, but they're really starting to get it. And we spend like we are still in the middle of it right now. We haven't, because since you were here last, we've added the history of York as a part of that piece too. We've kind of go through all of York athletics and how the York and Hickory Grove and Sharon and Jefferson all came together, and how we were three mascots at one time. But then we get into the kind of the John Wooden pyramid that we did together, that you're aware of. And today our word of the day was discipline. And we don't do that so much with the 10th and 11th and 12th graders anymore. Last year was the last year we did it with them, because they got it so much, which I don't think you can get it too much, but they're getting the same course in the sixth grade, the seventh grade, eighth grade, and now ninth grade. So we feel like we've laid that groundwork and they've heard it. So now what we do with the other two classes is we go up and work toughness drills. I've got that big sled out there. It's not really a sled. It's got the 4 heavy bags on it.
Oh yeah.
I bought boxing gloves and we hit those heavy bags.
Heck yeah.
I just try to do things that I know it's outside the box again, that I know builds toughness. We're going to build toughness. That first day they got those little half training gloves, and they came out and they were hitting it up near the harnesses where it hangs down, and they had busted knuckles and they were whining about the blood on their knuckles. And I said, hey, that's going to make you tough.
And I'll tell you this, you make tough coaches too. It ain't easy. It ain't easy coaching for Dean Boyd now. It is not. I remember going out there and be like, man, it's awful early out here, boy. I don't know. I think we had like a sleepover night, and then we're practicing it really early in the morning. Are y'all still doing that?
We still do some of that. We don't get it in as much of that, because now we take them to still go to FCA, which I love. I absolutely love that camp. But we also now take them on a tour, a summer tour. So like this year, we're going to Marshall to do day camps. Then we'll leave Marshall that afternoon and head straight to Morgantown and play in a 7-on-7 the next morning at West Virginia. And then we leave after we finish that day at West Virginia, we'll drive down to Blacksburg and play in 7-on-7 the next day at Virginia Tech. Then we'll come home. So, cool. And they love it. I mean,
how many you taking on that trip? How many guys are you taking?
Last year we took 46.
Wow.
Because we take the linemen and let them do the lineman camps as we're doing the 7-on-7. This year it's probably going to be closer to 60. Our young man raised about $24,000. And if they, me, Jamie, if they raise it, I spend it on them.
Yes.
Yep. I don't believe in holding that money back for the kids that raise the money. We're going to buy what they need, and we're going to do the things that they need to do and want to do. And we're buying them some, as they love those passing leg uniforms and all that stuff. So we're going to jazz them up a little bit and take them down there, and hope we play as good as the uniforms look. We'll be pretty good if we do that.
I hear you.
Yeah, I think I've heard of people doing the tours, but I think it's a good mixture, because it's that team bonding, those relationships, but it also keeps football in the mix. So you're going to compete every day, so you got the camp where they compete individually in a day camp, but then you have the team part with the linemen and the 7-on-7. I think that's huge. And you said that, y'all do the course from the time they're 6th grade up. So I guess what I want to know is, what do you think the non-negotiables that you're trying to reach to your feeder programs are? So when they hit 6th grade, like, is it, toughness and grit, or is it scheme? Like the non-negotiables you want feeders to learn immediately as soon as they get in?
Fundamentals, and toughness. Because I think when I played here many moons ago, there was always a toughness aspect. And I think we've lost some of that over the years. I don't think it's just at York. I think it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But York, we got to have toughness to win. We're not going to out-athlete a lot of teams. Not in this area. You guys know this is the strongest area in the 2 Carolinas. We both are right. You guys are right across the line, and great programs that y'all are involved in. And it's tough. So, if you're not as gifted overall athletically, you better be tough. You better be sound fundamentally, and you better be tough. So we spend a lot of time on that grit and that toughness that you're talking about, and hitting those heavy bags, doing the heavy ropes. We jump the heavy ropes a lot now. We bought rack pads from Ray Crowther, and I called Hans. I said, Hans, I want to buy I need these pads for my racks. He said, well, we don't make them. Somebody else has them. I said, there's one company that makes them. That's it. He said, no, that can't be right. I said, I'm telling you, I've researched it. There's one company. And he said, well, let me get back to you. I said, Hans, you could make some money on this because I'm telling you, there's only one company and you got to buy their racks. About a month later, he calls me back and he says, you're right. There's one company. I said, I told you. So he starts developing this pad and we've gotten them from him. And because I gave him the idea, he helped me out a little bit too. He
Oh yeah.
two of them. So, but we get those things in there. So on, Wednesdays, we're going to hit the rack pads. And again, that's hitting that pad with that pad that's stuck to that big old rack. So they're having to punch. They're having to hit something. Kids aren't used to doing that anymore. Guys, think about it. When I grew up, and probably so when you guys grew up, because I know I'm a lot older, but you still played ball. There wasn't all the video games there are now. And you got in the yard and you played. And inevitably, when you got in the yard and played with another group of kids in the neighborhood, somebody was going to get mad.
Yep.
And when they got mad, there was going to be fisticuffs probably, and nothing major, but there was probably going to be some pushing and shoving. Well, they don't do that anymore. And so you got to find a way, and it's just like big kids. You guys have seen them. You got some of the biggest kids on your team. You get them out there and they're like a big old pudding. They just don't fight back because they've always been the biggest kid and nobody has ever challenged them. And when they get to that age where they have to hit something, they're kind of afraid to do it. And so this is a way to kind of introduce that and not encouraging fighting, not encouraging anything like that, just a toughness thing because your body is not prepared. We were not born to hit something. That's just not the way it was. It has to be a learned activity. And so we try to find ways to do it. We try to be creative and do it. We do mat drills like everybody else and just trying to find ways to get kids involved and get them to enjoy it.
Yeah, we're doing something similar. We went to the South Carolina or the USC clinic last year and listened to their strength conditioning staff talk about the different ways they do warm-ups. So we always did a typical dynamic warm-up, which is great, but it can be monotonous. And you got to bark at the kids, hey man, get down there on your lunge or, do the karaoke ride or whatever it is. Now we don't even do that. We come up with something different every single day that is dialed into their workout. So like if we're doing bench press, and then we got this straight from South Carolina, we're doing bear crawls. So that's one of our things that we do, competition bear crawls in heats. So it's like the winner, of the heat, not necessarily a relay. And then we're doing, farmers carry relays. We're doing box jump circuit races. I mean, that's all we do now. And just going back to that, they don't really like doing bear crawls, but they do like competition. And so if you could put them in that moment and you're not used to this, like, Coach, why are we doing bear crawls? Well, we're racing. We're getting uncomfortable. We're getting you in a position that's not in that video game position. Like we're doing something that's going to benefit you and build the muscles that, we all did going out there and playing, when one guy's got the ball and everybody's tackling them. I forgot what we called that game, but those were good times and they don't do that anymore. So I'm with you, Coach. I think that's
throw them
exciting.
up, bust them up.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's what we called it. Throw them up, bust them up. No,
That's
Coach, but when back to the Hans story, that's why I love Ray Crowther and Hans, because if you have an idea of how you can make your team better, stronger, tougher, whatever it may be, he will listen to you because he cares about delivering what you need. But that's what I love about Hans, man. You can call him.
That's right. He's one of a kind. He's one of a kind. He does a great job. I called him on that. He made the pad. He got the guy from Tip of the Spear to help him design it. It's got really good tight targets on there, which is important too, because, you want that small window and, just hitting it. I mean, we got a big, offensive lineman that I think could be pretty good, but he's a little soft because again, he's never had to hit anybody. Everybody's always been a little scared of him. I tell him, every time you hit that rack, I want to see that rack move. Because if I do that, I know that he's putting enough force in there. His hands are getting bruised up. His palms are getting bruised up. He's learning what it feels like to be uncomfortable, as you called it, because that's what it's all about.
Yep.
I think this is a great time to talk about our sponsor, Team Builder. We all know that strength and conditioning can be the biggest difference between a good season and a great season. Team Builder helps coaches design and manage training programs that deliver real results, helping build stronger, faster, and more prepared athletes. Click the link in our show notes for a free 30-day trial with the promo code CoachSpeak and start optimizing your program today.
Good deal, Coach. Well, we're excited about to hear about those things. Now, we really want to talk about your off season, and I know we've hit on a lot of those things. But what's your overall philosophy now? We're kind of getting into. I'm really interested in kind of your upperclassmen, your varsity and JV teams. What is your big thing in the off season? I know you got new OTAs coming out. With South Carolina, you got your 7-on-7 stuff, I'm sure. But what are you really trying to get done? And you can kind of talk through spring ball a little bit too.
Right now, we just got finished with our 4x1 phase. We're going into our 3x2 phase. So right now, we're really working on speed now. We just competed in the state championships in our weightlifting, our state strength meet this past weekend, and actually for 4A we won the state championship again. Wow. So we're back-to-back state champions. And so we just completed that. We're going into our 3x2 phase, what I call our 3x2 phase, where we lift on Monday. We're going to do presses. Tuesday we're going to do power. Thursdays we're going to do Olympic lifts or explosion lifts, and then Tuesday we're going to do side to side horizontal speed and agility. And then on Wednesday, that was on Wednesday, and on Fridays we're going to do our linear speed. And that's where we break the catapults out and do some different things with that. But we also try to take some time in there to do, some modified 7-on-7 or some of those types of things because now once OTAs are over, April's come, and then you start spring football in South Carolina on May.
And how much install are you doing in OTAs?
Not a whole lot.
Okay.
Not a whole lot. We are doing after the season, we break down our offense and our defense and look at the mistakes we made and the things that we need to work on. And one of the things that we pinpointed this past year, and it's for a number of different reasons, but was that, like for receivers, for example, we weren't crisp on our target areas. We might cut our route short or go long on our route trying to get open when we didn't necessarily need you to get open. You were going to open up the other guy if you run the route the way you're supposed to run it. So some of those types of things are what we're focusing on at this point. I'm having to do the receivers right now because our receivers coaches are track coaches. So I'm going to do those in the OTAs, and we're spending a lot of times, you do it, you do it right or you burpee,
Right. And you're just talking about like you're getting into this is the route. This is how you run the route. And then you wait till, I guess, later in the spring to start incorporating all that into your install?
Yeah, and we'll do some of that a week or two before spring ball in the class. We'll go out there and we'll kind of go into the concepts and explain to it, explain how we want the whole thing to process and how we want it to work. Because, as well as I do, when you have some guys that are more concerned of maybe trying to get a college scholarship and not looking at what the team needs and not realizing that if they follow what the team needs and what they're taught to do, their scholarship offers will actually increase. But we had some of that. And I think that kind of led into what ended up us being at the record we had. I mean, you lose 6 games by a total of 18 points, and we lost 5 of those games either on the last play or the last drive. So, and you have to find a reason why that happens. And we tried to look at every reason. We tried to be very critical of us as coaches, but we also saw other things that we needed to do. And so we're spending a lot of time on the technique. You run this way. And, because the first thing they'll say is, well, when I run it this way and I cut back, there's a guy standing right there. Well, that's because right now we're only doing that route. Or you're thinking when you're running this route, when we got everybody out there, he's in your way, but he's going to react not only to you, but to the guy inside of you. And the guy outside of him is going to react. We're trying to get a certain concept and a certain area open field of the area, an area of the field open, but you got to do your part. As 17, 18-year-old kids
That's
are,
tough.
they don't see it that way.
It's tough to get that buy-in for sure,
Yeah.
especially when targets and catches and stats, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm not gonna run hard on an MOR outside shoulder and shave the guy on stick. Well, the play's over. I mean, like now the corner's gonna drive down. There's no chance for a hole shot. There's all kinds of stuff, and that's really difficult, especially today in today's age.
It is, and they don't understand that sometimes when you run that MOR and you hit it the way you're supposed to, we can hit you.
Mhm.
And that's what I try to tell them. And so we were spending a lot of time. We're going to be young at wideout, which is not always a bad thing, because I think that, they haven't developed some of those bad habits yet. I'm not trying to talk about our other kids. We had some great kids out there that they're kids. They don't understand the wisdom of it. They didn't mean to do anything to hurt the team or hurt themselves, but they did it inadvertently by thinking that they were helping the team by doing their own thing instead of doing what the play called them to do.
And
So
I love that you're able to go through that with them and show them, like, this is the example. Like, this is, look, we need to run this route this particular way. This is why the play failed. And they're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Now, coach, if I do it this way, okay. I love the fact that you're taking the time to really walk through that with your players, not just like evaluating and saying these are the wrong things, but then going back and showing them. I think that's really good.
and I think we took one concept. I said, I told Coach McSwain and Coach Strain, I said, we're going to take this one concept. We ran it 30 times this year. It's a base concept. It's just curl. All right. At the air raid concept. All right. So we got an OTB, we got a curl, we got a speed out, we got a curl here, we got a speed out. All right. Now let's take the plays where we actually ran the right target areas and ran the right routes. Let's put those down. There's like 4. And guess what? We completed all 4 of those. And then I said, okay, now how many just one guy messed up? Well, we completed maybe 2 or 3 of those. Now, when 2 guys didn't do what they were supposed to, we didn't complete any of those. So we just took those and we set all of them down and said, okay, where's the open spot? Show me on the field. We'd run the play. I'd blot out the receivers. Where's the open area? Right there. Where's the receiver supposed to be? Well, he's supposed to be right there. Well, he didn't do that because he thought he was helping the team out and himself out by doing it this way because the guy was lined up here. But eventually, where he was supposed to be is what was open, and he didn't do it. So we're trying to show them that. We just took curl as an example, but it can be that way with all our concepts. And we've got to make those kids understand somehow that it's you've got to be technical. You've got to run it the way it's supposed to run. And if you do that, you got a better chance at completing the play.
Yeah. And no, coach, and a concept that I've had trouble in the past is any concept that has a fin route, a 5-yard in, they get to it so quick. They don't understand, like, for example, a simple trips levels concept where 3, let's just say, has a seam and 2 has the fin. Well, the guy at number 2, like you said, you got to teach him, listen, you have time. We have to see how the mic's going to play it. Is he going to high wall it? Is he going to low wall it? And if you get there too quickly, he just covered both of you, So I think it's super important that you take that OTA time and teach it now, because something,
yeah.
So something Jamie told me was that I took down in one of our podcast shows was spring is the time he really teaches all of your drills, your circle chase, your tackle circuit. You slow down and teach it. That way, when you hit fall, they got, and I think that's something else. And I'm taking notes. Coach, one question I have for you real quick, the 4x1 phase, are you going Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday lift? Is that what you're doing Monday, or 4x1 phase?
Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Wednesday's that mat day during that
Yes,
time.
sir.
And that's when we hit those rack pads and hit those dummies and all. Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
And you said you're moving into 3x2 phase. What's your summer phase? Do you stick with 3x2 or you change it a little bit?
Pretty much, summer phase is 2x2 for us. We don't lift on Fridays. What we try to do is go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but Wednesday's more of a run day for us. We started doing team runs and that sort of thing, and a fuller practice on Wednesday. So we'd go out there and run for 35, 40 minutes or a little longer, depending on how hard I felt like they did and didn't do. And then we would go practice. And then Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, we basically did what I just explained to you, more of a 3-2 split, but we only really had that one day of running.
Gotcha.
And our linemen, we run just about every day now.
Sure.
And we did not do that in the past. But we started running them a lot, and that's helped out a great deal. The other thing that's a little different, Jamie, that I haven't mentioned that we do now is we practice before school starts. Our kids in the season, when season starts, they come in at 6:45 and we start at 7. And then all of them have first block football class. So we got 120 kids. We got JV and varsity. And I got all my coaches have first block planning. So we've got practice done by 10:30 every day. And we lift a little bit sometimes after school, or we watch film a little bit sometimes after school. But by doing it this way, we've had more time because we only practice like on the field from 7 to 9 early in the year, and that shortens up as we go along. Use that other time as film time and lifting time and everything else. So and the heat hadn't stopped us. Before the heat would stop us, and the year before we went to, this was our first year doing it 2 years ago, we had 27 practices that didn't start until after 5 o'clock, 15 of them after 6 o'clock. And that's hard. You're keeping those guys around for 2 hours and waiting to go out on the field, so you can't really plan anything. And then your coaches got to get up and be back at school at 6:30 next morning. That's hard to do. So I just asked them if we could get them all in there and get all my coaches planning for.
Would you ever go back to the old style? If you could.
Don't make me.
That's right. That's good.
If they don't make me, if
I
they
love
make
it.
me, I'll do it.
Well, there's less distraction too, I'm sure. Like you don't have the after school, meet up in the parking lot. You ain't got to get taped. There's no, girlfriends ain't up at 6 o'clock, in the parking lot waiting on everybody to talk to them and stuff. So I love that. And I mean,
love it. The kids love it. We had 18 of them that had jobs. So, and that's another thing. But we're going to tweak it a little bit this year. Early in the year, we're going to probably practice those Mondays. We're going to probably do those in the afternoons just so that we can get a little more heat exposure, because I do feel like maybe early in the year last year that we didn't have as much heat exposure as we needed. And plus it gives us Friday night to Monday afternoon to rest. Sometimes it's hard on Friday night and you're practicing at 7 o'clock on Monday morning. They're still a little hanged up and sore thing. So we'll probably get a weight workout in, more of a rehab session in on Monday mornings early in the year. We'll see how that goes, but it was really a good situation. And we got what we found out is we got more time with them like that than we've ever had before.
That's awesome. No, I love that.
Get a lot more done.
Yeah, I like, Coach, too, how you're adapting it this year too. To hear you, because like I know sometimes on Monday morning ride to work, it's Mondays can be tough after 48 hours of relaxing and being at home. So I'm sure for kids, the Monday morning practice probably had a little bit of getting that lackadaisicalness out of them this early. It's Monday morning. But it is interesting to hear the heat part of it. You still got to consider if you're practicing at this temperature, it may be hotter or more humid when you're playing. That's interesting. But I've only heard of one other high school doing it like that down in South Carolina in Florence. I would see they post job openings and they would say, hey, we practice during first block. So it's neat to hear someone else that's done it. It sounds like a great opportunity.
We tried to pattern it after South Carolina, the way they do theirs in the morning. We have an open week during the year. Not an open week. We have a fall break now in South Carolina. If you have these funky calendars like we got. So 1 week during the season, they're not in school. So we treated that the year before exactly like South Carolina did theirs. Practice in the morning. We fed them breakfast, practiced them, watched film, lifted weights, fed them lunch, and let them go. And did that for a whole week. We found out we liked that, and the kids liked it. You would think that getting up at 6:30 in the morning would really affect them. And it did. We didn't have near as many people miss practice as we had in the past. They loved doing it. And it also weeds out the guys that are not sure if they want to play or not. The guys that, for lack of better terms, what we used to call them pizza eaters. All right. Now they've got to get off that fence. Are you going to play? Well, okay. You're going to get up at 6:15 every morning and you're going to practice like that for about 50 practices during a year. And if you'll do that, you'll be a part of our team.
Did you get any pushback from like parents or community members on that early on? And if so, how'd you handle that?
The only pushback I had was a little bit from our vocational department because they felt like that some of the kids, they've got some first block classes down there, and they thought that some of our kids would take those classes if they wasn't, if football wasn't involved. So what we did, and we compromised a little bit here, is that we did have 2 or 3 that wanted to take them. So we let 2 of them take the class. So that meant they had to leave. We'd start practice at 7:00. They had to leave at 8:30. The class started at 8:45. They had to leave at 8:30. So we had an hour and a half with them. They had to come back after school and make up stuff because the coaches would stay until 5 every day, and some more, but at least till 5. But it allowed my coaches the opportunity to see their kids play ball.
Yeah. I mean, that's
to be a part of going to see their kids play ball. And that's something that I regret. I didn't have all that because I was just, I came up the old school way. I was real fortunate. Some of these things y'all were talking about earlier that you've seen me do and that sort of thing. It's all stuff I've learned from other people that were my mentors and that I've tried to pass along, but it's nothing original. It's stuff that these guys have taught me. And that's kind of what, we're trying to do with that. We let those guys go but it worked out for us.
that's better for
Yeah.
the wives, I'm sure, and the kids. I mean, they have to have way more buy-in now. How are you structuring your weekends during the season?
We still give them Saturday off. And then on Sunday, our coaches still meet. We do a lot of it through Google now, through Google Drive. But we'll have a format that they have to fill out the sheets and that sort of thing. And then we meet for several hours to talk about what we saw and what we put on Google Drive and who the players were that were pretty good. And then we kind of script everything out for the week.
You do your Google Drive. What are y'all doing with that Google form?
Yeah, we're
like what's in that?
What's in it?
Yep.
We'll have one coach in charge of the fronts. All right. And one coach in charge of the fronts, but another coach works with those fronts. He's in charge of the dudes. Who's the dudes? Who are the guys? All right. I'm speaking offensively. And then, then I got certain things I want to know about the defensive ends. I got certain things I want to know about the linebackers. Are they thud? Or are they side eye on the sideline? I want to know, coverages. I got one guy in charge of the coverages, another guy looking at personnel. What do they like to do and who is the best players? And then we talk about scheme a little bit. There's a place for scheme in there, and there's a place for blitzes and that sort of thing. And I've got guys that are in charge of that. And then I ask them to highlight clips. You see something, you told me you saw a dog blitz here, then you need to put down what clip number it is, what film it is. And I do that basically, and this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean it to, but I want to make sure they're actually watching the film and studying what they're supposed to study. Now, we're going to sit down in there and go through a lot of those clips. I'm going to go through all of them, but we're going to make sure. The other thing I'll do is I'll spot grade. This year I end up having to coach offensive line, but when I don't have to coach any positions, I spot grade. I'll take the quarterbacks. I'll grade them. And I'll ask the quarterback coach, let me have your grades. Of course, I get them every week. Then if we're not on the same page, then we need to sit down and watch the film together and see what I'm seeing and see what he's seeing. Because ultimately, he needs to be seeing what I'm seeing, or he needs to be seeing it the way I see it, unless he can convince me otherwise. Because we need to be running what I want us to run. And unless it can convince me otherwise. You know as well as I do, Jamie, I'm always open. I'm always open to a better way. And I want to trust my guys when I give them that opportunity. When right before you got ready to leave, I'd given you the offensive coordinator position. I should run with it, go with it. And you were starting to do that. and you got your head coaching opportunities and whatnot. But, I want to give them that opportunity. I want them to do it, but I don't want to give somebody a title and that's all it means to them as a title. I want them. I got hired for kids. That's why I got hired. That's why you got hired, and that's why you got hired. And if you're not doing what's best for kids, then you need to get out. You need to get out of this business.
100%.
That's not what, I don't have any hard, and I'm talking about anybody. I'm talking about me too. If it gets to a point where I'm not doing it for kids, I need to get out. And I hope somebody will tell me that if I don't see it myself. But I just a firm believer in that. And I want us to win. And the only way we win is by having an organized, structured, disciplined, and hair on fire, ready to go football team. And I don't know that we always had that this past year, and that's why we finished the way we finished. So now we got to figure out what we got to do to make that right, and we've addressed a lot of it. I don't think overall we're probably as talented as we were last year, but I think we could be a better football team a lot because of the discipline and the culture that we have.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I want to learn this from you, Coach. So, to get those teams, it involves leaders. It involves your captains of your team. And I would just love to hear you cover from A to Z on captains. How do you select captains? How do you build captains? And just captains 101. That's something you have a lot of experience in doing this. And just I want to hear a little bit from start to finish. How do you do your captain situation?
It's going to be more different than you think, probably. We have a captain's council, and a lot of people have that. That's nothing different. And I let the kids actually pick that, but we hold them accountable. If they don't do what they're supposed to do, if they don't show up for the meetings, or they're not doing the fundraising or whatever it may be that we're doing, then they're out. They're not out off the team, but they're off of that captain's council. And I have about 13 of them. I have one for each position, and then one guy I pick, or something close to that. And during the year, actually, when we're actually picking captains on Friday nights, I don't have 4 set captains or 2 set captains that go every game. My quarterback is a captain every game. All right. Whether he was a great leader or a turkey, he is a captain. All right. Just because I got to have somebody that can communicate with those officials on the field the way, knowing what I want done. All right. But the others are all seniors. Like this past year, our quarterback was Tayshawn Freeman, who was a junior. So he was a captain every game. But the other 3 guys I picked were all seniors, and I just rotate them. And, and I do that because the kid who didn't play a whole lot this year, but has done everything I've ever asked him to do, and is as great a kid as you ever want to meet, doesn't get on the field much, but he can always remember that he was a captain during his senior year. Something 20 years from now, he's going to be able to say that. So that's important to me. But what I look for as far as leaders and captains, it's the guys that take charge. It's the guys that are not afraid to walk in that weight room and say, "You missed a rep," or "Why do you not have your shirt on?" or "Why are you not doing what you're supposed to?" "Hey, great job. I like the way you work today." So it's a lot of different things in that. I still let our kids have a lot of say in who they pick as our permanent captains in our awards banquet. But I've ultimately got the heavy pen, and sometimes we've come to a compromise. But I think more so than just calling kids captains, I think is finding leaders and making them and holding them accountable, and more so them holding themselves accountable. I will get in that weight room. Today was a great example. We had a kid that came up there in a blue shirt. Now I buy him t-shirt and shorts, but this kid's a freshman. He's in a freshman class. But we've got a leader in that class. And we went up to the weight room, and that guy his job is to check the outfits before they come out. He checked the outfit. The boy wore the outfit anyway. He checked him at the door, but the boy wore the outfit anyway. But the captain didn't come to me. So I didn't know that he had worn it up there. So when I got up there, I saw it and I called him out. I said, "What you got a blue shirt on for?" He said, "Coach, I left my other one at home." I said, "It's not supposed to go home. We wash every day." Jamie said that earlier. We wash every day. There's no reason for that stuff to go home. All right. So I called the leader out. I said, "All right, you got 50 burpees." And he said, "Coach, I wore everything I'm supposed to have." I said, "You're supposed to call him out." I called him out, and I had other players tell me he called him out. I said, "How did he get by up here without me knowing?" "I didn't come to you, Coach. He just said he was going to do it on his own." I said, "Then you're not a captain. You're not the leader I need you to be. This guy's not doing it the right way." Well, what ultimately happened is the kid, of course, he took his shirt off, but he wanted to do he didn't want that boy to have to do the 50 burpees. What I was hoping would happen. Um, Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get caught in that, but you got to play those games with them.
Yeah, what good learning experience for that kid. If you're going to be the captain, it's just like being a coach. It's like, well, the quarterback didn't do what he's supposed to do. Well, it's ultimately on us as leaders to do that, or the receiver, or whatever the case may be. So that kid's learning as a captain. His guys need to do what they're doing. They're going to be held accountable for that. I love that. Such a good lesson.
You're exactly right.
Yeah. So, Coach, when you're looking into leadership, what do you are you, or excuse me, with the captain's council? What are you guys doing throughout the week in that captain's council that helps you kind of, what are you using that for?
A lot of different things. Like right now, what's a fundraiser? We're doing a fundraiser. So I'm getting those guys to chat with their teammates, and I gave all our captains kind of a mini team, right?
Yeah.
So you got to check each player on your mini
Like a
team.
platoon. Yep.
And so, that might be that's been the month of March. Now we've talked about other things. We meet every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. All right. And we go from 8 to 8:30. It's only 30 minutes. And I ask them about the temperature in the locker room. What's it like? All right. What does everybody feel like we're doing good or we're not doing good at? Coach, you're hard on us on this. Well, then we have to explain why I'm hard on them. And then if I feel like maybe they're right, then I back off, or try to do something fun, okay. 2 weeks ago, Coach, we've been going at it for 3 weeks and we hadn't really had a break. And, of course, I'm thinking 3 weeks is nothing, but that's what they're talking about. So the next day, I bring the popcorn machine down. We pop popcorn right in the hallway there. I give them York peppermint patties and I pop popcorn. They lift, they get that on the way down. They still lifted as hard as they've ever lifted, but they had a ball getting that popcorn and those York peppermint patties.
Yeah. So is that how you kind of keep things light in the off season? Like, do you guys have those like traditions, or do you have like these, or, whenever there's like a setback, and it's like, oh man, these guys are kind of drained or they're grinding. Like, is that, so you try to do popcorn? What other things have you guys done maybe in the summer too?
I think that, we've done, of course, we've gone to get them ice cold watermelons before. We've tried to do a movie night, but it was too daggum hot on that turf, so we couldn't do it. But, we've tried to do things that are a little bit different. We let them go out there and we put on the sprinklers one year. You know how them cannons are, how they shoot.
Oh yeah.
Put those on. About killed me doing it, but we try to do, we'll get the slip and slides down there. We've done that,
That's cool.
so anytime you start seeing that monotonous, oh, here we go again, that sort of thing, we try to do some things to liven it up a little bit. We've taken them on field trips, in the class in the spring. A lot of times we've been to UNC Charlotte, we've been to NC State. We've taken the whole group just to say, okay, you guys have been working hard. You've been doing a great job. We took them up to UNC Charlotte, and UNC Charlotte got done by 11:30 that day, and it's not that far for us to get back down here. And I told them early on that, hey, we're going to be gone all day, because I thought it was going to last longer. So I said, all right, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to go down to the mall. We'll go to the food court. You guys eat. We get back into York, and, it's 2:30. Well, we still got an hour, really, before school's out. So we rode around York for an hour in the school bus. And,
That's awesome.
I mean, and it's crazy, but they
Yeah.
loved it.
It's just bonding, man. It's
It
bonding.
just showed them that,
Yeah.
hey, coach ain't all bad.
Right.
He didn't make us go back to class that day. So
Yeah.
I love it.
No, that's Coach. That's a great story. Hey, bus driver, just we can go through some York history. Keep it rolling.
One more
Keep it
time,
rolling.
guys.
Because the bus driver's like, I'm cool with it. Let's
He's getting
keep it
paid by the
going.
hour.
No.
Well,
He's probably a coach.
Moorfield didn't like it quite as
Oh,
much.
Moorfield.
It was
Oh, yeah.
Moorfield.
Oh, yeah. Shout out John Moorfield, man.
Great
Greatest
dude.
PE teacher I've ever met.
That guy's fine.
Yes, absolutely.
So, Coach, in the off season, parents are the one you have to communicate with the most. How do you try to communicate with parents and hold that expectation and that standard and keep the parents in the loop?
It's definitely a different time. You guys know that. We have a parent meeting like everybody else, and we really try to sit down, and we've got Sports U now. We use that. I try to keep them up to date every day. Like, you remember the show This Week in Baseball? I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember that, but there used to be a show called This Week in Baseball. Well, I put an announcement out every week. It says This Week in Football. This is what we're doing, and so I try to get them involved in our touchdown club. We have a parents' night. At that parents' night, we talk about recruiting, which has become even a different another animal now. And just try to stay in contact with them as much as possible. But I still have, just like everybody else, we still have issues with, you didn't do anything for my son. You didn't help my son. You didn't get him recruited. Because it's just a society we live in. It's easier to blame other people for mishaps. And it's not the kid's fault most of the time. It's not the kids at all. And it's just that, parents sometimes try to live through their son or their daughter's eyes, and you do the best you can with it. The good thing is I'm in a unique situation. I am from York. Most of my buddies' kids have already gone through school, so I don't have to really listen to those guys. And the other thing is I've got 40 years in, and I'm at the point where I say, hey, look, I'm doing everything I can to help your child. I am away from my home and away from my family all the time. But, in the end, we're going to do it the way I want to do it. And if you don't like it, then you got to take steps to get that changed. And if you do, then I'm going to go to the house and sip my ties. I'm going to be fine. You know,
Exactly.
It is what it is. But I, I think most of them know we're trying to do everything we can to help them. I had a mom call me last week. She's got 2 on the team. We're doing this fundraiser now, and some of the kids are really working hard at it. For this trip, it's with a March calendar card. So they get, y'all have heard where you get the dates and you try to, it's 31 days in March. So you can raise up to $4.96 per card. And she's got 2 sons. So it's hard for both of them to hit the same people. So I said, listen, man, we'll work with you. We'll give, you get one son to get the March done. May's got 31 days too. We'll add him into May. We'll try to help you any way we can. And I think if you show them that for the most part, but you still have it. I've still had some here that it doesn't matter what you do. They're not going to like you. It doesn't matter how much you try to help them. They're still going to say bad things about you. But you got to realize, especially as a young coach, for any young coaches that could be listening, you can't take it to heart.
Yeah.
You got to understand, do what you think is best to help the kid, do what you think is best to help the program, and just keep going forward. And don't worry so much about the negativity of one set of people, because they're always going to be there.
Yeah, no doubt. It can weigh you on as a head coach. And that's one thing when I took my head job that I really wasn't prepared for. I was all about scheme and culture, and man, I was going to get that. But that other piece of with communicating with parents is so important that you want to try to get out ahead as much as possible. But then there's often times where that's still not enough. Like, you can have as many meetings, you can have one-on-ones, you can do a lot of things, but then at the end of the day, they may not just see eye to eye with what you're offering them. And that could be stressful and tough. So, man, I get it. And it's changing. And I think that's becoming more prevalent with the whole new landscape of recruiting and all that stuff too. So, and parents, man, they may have a 15-year-old kid. They don't know anything about recruiting, and they got stuff they're hearing on social media with this kid's getting recruited, that kid's getting recruited, my kid's not getting recruited. And there's just it's tough. It's tough on everybody, especially with the new system.
You're trying to, the biggest selling point I'm trying to tell them, and it's the part that they really don't want to hear, is I'm trying to build better young men.
Mhm.
I want good fathers, good husbands, good people in the community. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for the guy that makes the NFL. Yeah, if we have one make it, and if your son makes it, I'm happy for you. That's a great thing. But the likelihood of that happening is 99.7% it ain't going to happen. So let's build a good young man.
Mhm.
Let's build a good husband. Let's build a good father. And I try to spend a lot of time on that to try to diffuse it, because ultimately every time they come in there, it's about playing time or how they're not getting the ball or whatever it may be.
And it seems it
Well,
just seems like the values are changing. Like back when you started coaching, and even when I was playing, I'm sure Dustin too on the tail end of this. Like when I was playing, we had a few guys that were getting recruited, our best players, but that never even crossed our mind as players, even if we were like Division II talent or whatever it is. Like now, it seems like 80% of your roster wants to get recruited, and that's just a big bear to like handle, man. It's definitely a big issue, and then those values don't necessarily correlate to the values that you're trying to instill as a head coach
Yeah.
of the things you just said. So that's super difficult.
Well, because it's because we live in such a day and age of transactional. It's not, and we are from a time of transformational. And I say that I'm the last year, maybe the last 2 years of the millennial, but it's like we are all in this to make better men, and it's like to some people that's not good enough. Like I want you to make him a college athlete. That's what I want you to do, and it's like trying to still sit on your standards of listen, we're transformational first, and some transactional things will come out of that, but it's about who can we shape them into being. And in my first head coaching job, you know and I joked about this before, but whoever the first guy was that posted a tweet about, hey, thank you for so-and-so stopping by. Like, I wish he never would have done that, because it's a standard. Everybody wants to see the guys that are coming by, and you can do all those things. You can post the 63 schools that came by in the spring. You can make a recruiting website and all this, but like you said, there's still going to be people saying, well, you're not getting our kids recruited. You're not doing this. And I just kind of, like you said, it took me a little while, but I learned it's not personal. And if I can lay down every night and put my head on the pillow and know I did everything I could in my power to help these kids, then I'm gonna sleep like a baby.
And that's exactly right. You're dead on it. If you can do that, and all of us can. I mean, that's because it is a monster in itself. And but I just I know, like, in the again, and this, I don't mean this to sound bragging, but I know right now I I'm doing 3 practices a day. I'm getting at school at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting home usually. Tonight I got home earlier, but usually about 9 o'clock. All right. And I've got 3 grandbabies now. So I want to spend time with them, because I didn't get to spend as much time with my kids because I put all this time into it on the front end. But I'm doing all this to help out. And if you can't see that my coaches and myself and others are doing everything that we can to help you, then there's not really a whole lot I can do for you. And I hope you see it, and I hope things work out. But I'm going to do what I can to help our team before I do anything else. And it's a shame that we're going through that, but I think it's social media has a lot to do with it. And they all are living for that next offer or that next. I mean, I think there's guys that get in the portal now, not so much because they need to get in the portal because they don't think they're going to play. I think they miss all the hype that it was when they signed the first time, that they can't deal with the fact that they don't have any hype anymore.
Yep. It's
And
a it's an
I
addiction.
think it's a syndrome, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that the social media, those kids get so caught up into that, and then you see, even in the high school, I'd like to thank York High School, but I'm taking my talents to Greensboro High School. I mean, that kind of stuff is crazy.
Yeah. It's definitely crazy. And I know we're talking a lot about negative things, but I know there's people in that community. I know that community. I was there for 6 years. There's some people that are really proud of what you guys are doing. And I'm really interested to, hear about how you engage the community, because I know there's a lot of positive that you guys do, but talk a little bit about how you build those relationships with, maybe it'd be business owners in the community in terms of like fundraising, and how you get them to support your program.
And a lot of that are guys that actually played in the program. I've gone to see a lot of them. The churches are really big in helping us. We do the Fellowship of Christian Athletes 7-on-7 camp every year. It's a 3-night or 2-night, 3-day camp, and It's about $16,000, and we haven't paid a dime on that 5 years I've been here. The churches have paid every bit of it. We've had probably close to 100 kids commit to Christ during that time over that 5 year, 6 year period. And then just other things like doing the Pop Warner that we're doing now, the 12 and under. That goes a long ways. We got 75 kids out there right now. And that goes a long ways with our community because they're getting to bring their kids out there for 2 hours a night, twice a week, and they're going to get to play a few games here in a few weeks. And we're trying to play them all. And doing things like that, I think, makes a big deal. We're out in the community picking up trash. We go to read to the elementary schools, which is some of these are not unique. All programs are doing it. We go help with the Rotary. We cook. We help with the hot dogs for the York Electric. Just so many things that we've done and try to make ourselves visible, accessible, try to help out in any way that we can. And I think, and a lot of people think it's always because I'm trying to get, or some people may think it's because I'm trying to get sponsorship or money. Some of it's that. Um, but a lot of it is we're trying to teach our kids how to live and produce and be productive in our society. I want them to know what it's like to go out and pick up on trash on the highways, and what that means to our environment. I want them to know what it's like to go help a civic organization like the Rotary Club and doing things for our community. I think those are valuable lessons. And you're right. We did kind of had some negative spots that we're talking about, but there's so much more positive goes on that sometimes we can get caught up with that 10% of negative because of
100%.
that reason.
But y'all are
But
doing such a great job with just serving the community. Where else are those kids going to get that kind of access to serve their community other than, working a job where they're getting paid? But and to some degree that's what they're doing. But I mean, you're providing this platform for them to do something that they'll never experience, regardless of how many offers they have or anything like that. You just mentioned some over 100 kids giving their life to Christ, and I mean that right there should outweigh any offer, any scholarship that's going to be in the near term versus their eternal, life. And so that, man, that's a testament to you. And without FCA and without the churches and without your football program, that probably doesn't happen, at least at this point in their life. So that's great that God's been able to use your program too.
well,
Yeah.
we're the only school in York County that goes actually to the FCA. I've tried to talk the others to doing it, um, and it's not that they don't want to. All of them want to do it, but our schedules are so hectic. It's trying to find the time and being organized to get it done. So I get it. It's hard. It's real hard. We have to make a conscious effort to make sure that we do that. But our kids love it. They absolutely. We go down to PC. They love it. We still get to compete, and we compete hard. I mean, I tell them when we get down there, look, we're gonna compete. We're gonna get after it. We're gonna be like Christ was in the temple when the tax people were in the temple. We're gonna kick them out.
Flipping tables.
That's what we got to do. And but it's a great theme every year. The kids, we have had some great speakers, and it's just been a blessing. And I think it means a lot to our community. I know it means a lot to our community. We haven't paid for it. We haven't
That's
paid
awesome.
for it yet. That's a $14,000 to $16,000 bill every year. It's just letters, me writing letters, asking for donations, and this is what we're doing. And I send it to every church I can send it to, and they respond. And that's a good community. That's a great community.
Yeah, and then I think that sense of community kind of gets that message through every player. It's bigger than you. It's about where we come from. It's about in those times of leaning together and relying and believing into something. And I think that's huge for them to see as they move throughout life, because what they've learned within York and through the York community, they may move somewhere that the community is not like that, and they're that seed that gets the community to lean together. And I just I don't know if a lot of people were teaching those things, and they are so valuable for later in life.
Yeah, no question about it. So you talked a little bit about fundraising with churches. Are there any other cool ideas that you guys do for fundraising?
We've done a little bit of everything. We've we had the pro wrestlers here not too long, about a year or so ago,
Yes.
and that was pretty fun to get involved in. I got
How
to
many
hit.
people showed up to that?
We actually had a good crowd. I got to actually hit one of them with a clipboard, so that was really cool.
We need that clip. We need that clip so we can post it right now. Oh my
That was
gosh.
actually pretty fun. Um, but we've done the dance competitions where we have to put the mats on the floor, for the dance. They pay us to do that. We've done the discount cards. We've done the calendar fundraiser. I mean, if there's a way to raise money, we've just about tried to hit them all. Because the gate receipts we have to split with other teams, and people are not going to high school football games like they did in the past. Not at all places anyway, and so we're having to do a lot of different fundraisers. The calendar fundraiser has been really good for us, though. If you got 80 kids on your team and every one of them did the calendar, that's $469 per player.
What is
Now,
that, Coach? What is the calendar fundraiser?
it's like the month of March, so it's got the dates in there, 1 through 31. You go ask somebody to sponsor a day. All right, so I'd come to Jamie Bolton. I'd say, Jamie, would you please, to help York football, give me a donation and sponsor a day? So if that kid if I said that to you and you said, I'll take day 31, or I'll just give you $50. Okay, Mr. Bolton, I'm gonna give you day 31, and I'm gonna give you day 19, because that's $50. Or if you just say, I'll do the dollar, all right, you get day 1. All right. And then
Gotcha.
I fill up as a player. I try to fill up my whole calendar. And what I do is it's $496. I give them $200 worth of gear. I buy for them if they fill their whole card out. And it works out pretty good because I do it at retail cost. So it's going to actually cost me a little less. And then I take the rest of that money and I invest it in that trip that we go on. So this is the last week. Next Monday is our end of
Big
our
push.
fundraiser. Right now we're sitting at about $12,000 to $14,000. So we've done
Wow.
pretty well so far. But we need to get to about 23. That's what our goal is. So we got to make some room up between now and next Monday.
And do you tell the players beforehand, like, hey, we're going to raise this money for these specific items? Like, you try to make it super transparent about like what you're going to spend it on? Does that give them some motivation?
Oh yeah, I said I tell them not only what we're going to raise it on, but I give them the exact prices of what everything costs.
Oh, that's cool.
As far as what the hotel rooms are going to cost us, what the tournament fees are going to cost us, what the passing league uniforms are going to cost us, and I break it down to it and show them to them so they understand that. Look, when I tell you it's going to cost us $20,000, I'm not making it up. That's why we just can't just go out and do it, because we don't have that kind of money. And it gives them an option. Like when we do this, I had several said, well, I don't want to fundraise. I said, well, you can't go on a trip. Well, what if I just pay the $496? Well, you can do that, but I'm trying to keep you from having to spend $496 of your own money. Well, I would rather just spend my $496. Hey, go for it then. I'm trying to get a certain amount. I want you to go out and raise money, though. I want you to learn what it's like to have to ask for something.
It's almost like, hey, why don't you donate that and then also raise another?
That's exactly right.
Do you have them do every month or just 1 month?
We just do we do March. That's
gotcha. Okay.
Like
that makes sense. Yeah. Okay.
We just do we do March. We started it March the 1st and we'll end it on March 31st. And again, like for example, if you had 100 kids, JV and varsity in your program at $496, you'd raise $49,600 if you could get everyone to complete it.
That's how y'all got 2 helmets.
That helps. But now you can also realize that you're going to have about 33% of your team that's going to do it the right way.
Right. Yeah.
It's just in football, it is what it is. But now we're doing much better this year because I attached it. I attached that with the trip. I call it their bus ticket. You give me $496, you got your bus ticket.
That's awesome.
I don't have $496, you're not on the bus. So,
Definitely incentive to get it done for sure.
yeah, and I learned this from Bobby Collins over at South Point. He does that same type of trip, but theirs is like $2,500. I said, Coach, how do you get those people to donate that kind of money? He said, well, we take charter buses. I said, oh, I know you're spending it. I'm not doubting that. I'm just asking how you get that kind of money. He said, Coach, they're walking around in $500 pairs shoes, tennis shoes. They got the money. They'll do it.
No doubt.
He's kind of right.
Yeah. Well, Coach, man, I think it's time for our last segment that we do for every episode. It's called the 2-minute drill. So we're going to do the 2-minute drill with Coach Boyd. Coach Martin, you can go ahead and start it off, man.
Yeah, Coach. So I know you're an offensive guy. So I just want to hear. I'm going to ask you a question. When you're going up against a team where the Jimmies and Joes are much better than the Jimmies and Joes you may have, what are some ways or a way that you try to equalize that? Like, you talked a little earlier about toughness and grit, but when it comes to actually playing teams that are much more talented, what are a way that you try to equalize that factor?
Depends on the team. You got to make the comfortable be uncomfortable. So if it's somebody like South Point, for example, that's got athletes everywhere and they're going to hurry, we're going to slow them down. So you gotta, or at least you try to. It doesn't always work, but you try to. You got to make the comfortable uncomfortable.
All right, Coach, here's one for me. And I know you always did a really good job of teaching the scenarios. I remember we did like the free kick and all those things. What is the craziest or favorite situational football moment that you can remember in your career?
Probably we were playing Conway. I think it was Conway. And we let them score. And then they went for one. They went up by 8. We just let them score from the 5 with about a minute to go in the game. And then we drove the length of the field, tied the game, and won in overtime.
Dang, that's wild. So instead of letting them run it all the way down, and then you just go ahead and let them score. I think Green Bay did that in the Super Bowl against the Broncos. They let them score, and they didn't end up winning. But that's pretty cool.
Lake City's who it was. The coaches were hollering at him to fall, and he fell, but he fell into the end zone. And then we took it 4 plays. We took it down and scored and hit the 2-point conversion and then won in overtime. So
that's cool.
It worked out for us.
That's cool. All right, Coach, you've been coaching 40 years, and York is excluded. This stadium's excluded. What is either the best stadium or most electric atmosphere you've ever coached in South Carolina?
Marlboro County back when we were rolling, would be one of the tops. I'd say Camden fits in there pretty good. Camden can get raunches. Kellytown can get really pretty good too. But probably Doug Shaw down at the beach was probably, as far as going somewhere to play somewhere, a very tough place to play. I've played in District 3, and it can be tough at times too. But as a player, I played at the old reservation. That was tough. But I would say those right there are probably the best.
Those are some big time spots. I played at Georgetown, so we played our fair share in Doug Shaw, and I don't think we ever came away with a win in that stadium. And, going to Limestone, we never played in the old reservation, but I saw it. We used to live near it, and I can just imagine how it used to be in the reservation back in the day. That's cool.
It used to be that the visiting team went under the tunnel, came out of the tunnel. And, I will never forget as a junior, one of my coaches said, hey, Boyd, don't be at the front of the tunnel and don't be at the back of the tunnel. Be in the middle, because they're reloading. If you're in the middle, you get missed. So, he wasn't lying.
It's always the places that don't have tracks. It's like the ones where like the fans are like 7 feet from the back of your helmet, like Charlotte Catholic's like that. Like there is no track. It's a bowl. They're like right there. They can hear everything you're saying. It's pretty wild.
Tell you guys a new stadium that's got a good vibe, and I don't like playing in it. It's Catawba Ridge. Um, it's kind of in a bowl, and it's really loud, and they're right on top of you.
Love
And
it.
so as a hated place to play, I guess that'd be one. It's pretty good now too.
That's awesome. All right, coach, who's your biggest influence, your biggest coaching influence? I know your brother was a super successful guy and obviously in his own right, but who do you look back to and say that's my biggest influence in your coaching career?
I think, I got two brothers, like you said, that both of them were big influences on me, but I'm going to exclude them for this question because that's a given. Um, Louis Lineberger. Louis Lineberger and Johnny Roscoe probably made more impression on me and taught me more about relationships and toughness in football and what it takes to have toughness than anybody. And I'm not sure that we could do the things we did back then. Now we wouldn't keep jobs, but it was a really good experience for me, and it taught me a lot about football. Coach Bill Pate was a big influence as well.
What were some of those things? What were they, like salt tablets, like back in Texas
Oh yeah,
A&M days?
you had one break, and most kids, including myself when I played, you suck the sweat out of your shirt just to get water. Um, and those are not those are truth things. And then you practice. It was nothing to go 4 hours. I mean,
just ISO, just
it was tough. It's just tough. And ISO. I can remember my first job at Williston, my first time as a head coach. And because I'd seen Coach Lineberger do it, we got out there and we got in a scrimmage and we ran ISO 42 power and ran it wrong. So it was 10 plays in a drive. Whole defense of the other team, we're running 9 times right here. It's exactly where we're running. And
oh
we're
my
going to get it
gosh.
right or you're going to kill us. We're not going to bootleg out. We're not going to throw the ball. We're running it right here. And I lied. The 10th play we did boot and score, but it, it was we did get after it, which
That's awesome.
developed some toughness.
Coach, this has been a great episode, man. I got a page full of notes over here, and I know you're super highly respected within the state of South Carolina, and I would even say throughout North Carolina, a bunch of guys know who you are, and I'm just thankful that you were able to come on here and share some knowledge, and from the outside in, I've never coached under you, but I see all the things you do, and I feel like there's some guys out there who provide fluff and make people think they do things a certain way, and then there are guys who are truly about it. And without a doubt, I know you're one of those guys who's about it, and that's just from hearing people that have worked under you, and I just appreciate you coming on, Coach.
Yeah, I don't see how you have all that energy. I mean, you've been doing it for, what'd you say, 60 or 70 years now? Is that how long? No, no, but you've been a head coach your entire career, basically. And so to hear you come on here and talk about just how excited you are for the next group and the next group and the next group. And Dustin's right. Like, you are the real deal. When you're in the laundry room with someone for, I don't know how many hours we spent together in that laundry room and coaching, like, you get to know somebody and you're super transparent. You care about coaches, you care about kids. That's why we had you on. I think it's important that people hear that, that it could still be done this way. Some people may call it old school, but I think that's why we're still passionate about this game, is because there's still people like you coaching this game. And, I don't want to go new school, man. I want to stay in this vein where we're trying to, like you said, build kids, build character, do it for the right reasons, and try to go through those battles. And we're glad that you're still in it, man.
I appreciate you guys having me on, and that's the right thing. I mean, our future, our country's future,
Mm-hmm.
is determined by what this next generation and the next generation do. And football is a way to build that right character. It's a great sport. I mean, I love sports. I love all sports, but I really love football because of that. And you guys are a testament to good young coaches coming along. So that's what I would say to you. This next generation is going to be on you guys. You do a great job. I know you will. You always have. And I appreciate y'all having me on, give me an opportunity to share some things that, make an old guy feel special again.
Absolutely. And guys, don't forget, we got 2 links in the show notes. One's for the Pro Quick Draw 7-day free trial, if you'd like to give that a trial. And then Team Builder, if you want to take your strength program to the next level, 30-day free trial with the promo code CoachSpeak. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
Thanks for tuning into the Coach Speak podcast. If you're interested in being a guest speaker on the show, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at coachspeakpodcast1@gmail.com. And if you have a question for our Q&A segment, don't forget to submit it through the form in the episode description. We appreciate your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the next episode.